What is up, Duelists? I am back with another deck review. If you like these type of videos, consider subscribing to the channel, like the video, all that fun stuff. I do put a lot of thought into these, so it really helps me grow the channel. But without further ado, we are going to look at the other heroes. That is, we're going to look at Destiny Heroes today. We had a bit of support come out with the recent box, and in addition to that, the new skill for Aster Phoenix being Destiny Effect. This deck is a lot of fun. Yeah, you guys probably expected that when I saw heroes come out, it'll be something I'm jumping on, and here I am. Had a bit of time to play around with them, and the deck chains together very, very nicely. Now, as most heroes decks in general, it is fairly flexible. The new cards that kind of brought it to life, in addition to the skill, the cards are Dystopia. So if you watched Arc 5, you'd recognize this card. Very, very powerful. Just requires 2 Destiny Heroes monsters brought out as fusion. First, it can take a Destiny Hero card in your graveyard and inflict half of its life points as damage to your opponent. And then once per turn, if the card's attack points are modified, you can activate an effect, destroy 1 card in your opponent's end of the field, and then the attack points go back to normal. That'll explain a lot of the different cards we have in the deck, and then also explain part of the skill that we have. So already with that, we have right now 1 Blade Master in the deck, so we can discard that, change the attack points, and destroy there. We have 3 Forbidden Lances, so already Forbidden Lance is a really strong card, but we can use that to manipulate the attack points and destroy from there. Now we also have a couple of Sunrises because actually I'll go through the whole effect now and the skill, and it'll kind of explain a lot of the stuff we're doing. So you just have to summon 1 Destiny Hero monster to activate it, normal summon that is. There's 3 different effects. So first effect, set polymerization outside of your deck, so you don't even have to have it in your deck to activate this, and send 1 Malicious from outside your deck to your graveyard. Now Malicious can be activated to, if you banish this one, summon another one from your deck. So it essentially just allows you to bring another card out onto the field there. Sometimes this is really helpful for if you just have 1 monster that you've been able to bring out. That makes 2. You can use polymerization if you don't have another monster in your hand, or you can use it to link summon into something else there. The second effect, we talked about Dystopia. If its attack points are modified, then you can destroy something in the field. This only increases it by 200, but that's enough to activate it, and can make it very, very troublesome. In the third, after the third turn, you can return 1 monster that is banished, Destiny Hero specifically, to the deck, then add 1 plasma to the deck, or from deck or graveyard to your hand, and then return 1 card to your deck. Sorry, that's a lot of reading there. Now, the really important thing to focus on here is banish Destiny Hero monster, because you can take a Malicious that you've already activated the effect for and send it back to your deck, and then that means that you can have an opportunity to activate another Malicious from your graveyard. Really, really helpful there. And then the second part of the effect, where you just bring a plasma to your hand, you can use that plasma to return back to the deck, so you can kind of ignore that part of it unless there's another card that you want to send back, but plasma is really not that effective. I don't imagine you're ever going to be using it. Really not the focus here. So in addition, yeah, Sunrise, because of that polymerization effect, you can summon either Sunrise or Dystopia depending on what you have. Only way you're going to bring Sunrise out is with Liquid Soldier. So not kind of the focus there, but if you can bring out 1 Sunrise, you can, using regular polymerization, you can use Miracle Fusion on the second one, and again, those will help modify the attack points with Dystopia. So a lot you can do there. And then the other new card here is going to be Extra Hero Wonder Driver. A little bit situational, but really helpful too. You 2 hero monsters to bring it out, and then if you summon a monster to the zone that it points to, so directly below it, you can bring polymerization back to your hand. You can activate this when polymerization is being activated as well. So you don't have to wait until polymerization is already in the graveyard. You can use polymerization, bring a monster out, and at that time then bring polymerization back again to fuse again. There's not too many fusion monsters here. Dangerous, just 1 more monster to have there, and a little bit of flexibility, but also the effect can be pretty powerful. You can mill 1 Destiny Hero from hand or deck to the graveyard, and then you increase the attack points by 200 per Destiny Hero in the monster until the end of the turn. So with this deck, you end up having a lot of Destiny Hero monsters in the graveyard pretty quickly. So because it's a quick effect, you can, if your if your opponent is attacking with Dark Magician 2500, you have 3 or 4 Destiny Heroes in the graveyard. You then have more attack points than it. A little bit of flexibility with the other cards in the extra deck that I'll cover quickly. We do have Dark Rebellion Dragon. I think anytime you're playing a deck with a bunch of level 4s, this should be a staple. Beatrice is a little bit of a hack here. Not a hack. It's a nice card to have because you're going to end up with multiple level 6s quite often where you can have 2 Maliciouses, also Dangerous is included there. And the effect of Beatrice being able to mill, so you can, you can mill a Malicious if you needed to, but you can also mill the Liquid Soldier because you can't use Miracle Fusion when the card is in your hand. It has to be either on your side of the field or in the graveyard. So you can mill it, then activate Miracle Fusion and get into your kind of Sunrises that way. Nice to have for sure, and then obviously the 2500 attack points are pretty solid in itself. Don't really use Nightmare. Could swap it out at some point, and that is the extra deck. But just to walk through, you have to have a Plasma in the deck essentially to activate one of the effects there. 2 Maliciouses, but you get a third one from outside of the deck, so chain those really nicely. Liquid Soldier kind of already explained. And the other Destiny Hero monsters here are really powerful in their own ways. This Decider will not, first off, cannot be attacked by monsters that are level 6 or higher, so a lot of common monsters right now are going to be higher than that, so you're safe to even keep it in attack points if you're playing against a deck that's doing that type of stuff. Can shut down a lot of stuff there, but also the turn that it's normal summoned, you can bring a hero monster back from your graveyard at the end phase, so a little bit of flexibility there. And a second effect, which I haven't used quite as much, but you can stop effect damage, which, nothing to complain about there. I mentioned Blade Master already, but you can use this for the destruction effect or just for boosting attack points. Always nice to have. Celestial, really powerful second effect. The first one you can destroy a face-up spell card, but you're not going to have a ton of those active at any point. Just not very meta right now. But after the turn that it's sent to the graveyard, if you don't have any cards in your hand, you can banish this card and one other Destiny Hero and draw 2 cards. So that draw effect is really, really nice. And then Drill Dark, really nice to have, where if you summon, you can special summon one other Destiny Hero from your hand with less or equal, but most of these, I think all 3 have 1600, 3 of the main ones here, so that works for any of them. And this card also inflicts piercing damage. Now, 1600 attack points doesn't seem like a big deal, but if you're able to get something like Sunrise out, you're going to be boosting the attack points. If you can activate the effect of Dangerous, this is also going to boost it. So that 1600 can turn into like 2500 or something or more very, very quickly. Using a ton of warriors, so reinforcement of army. And the monsters themselves don't have a ton of protection, so it's one of those decks you kind of have to build it in. This is pretty common, which we saw with the Elemental Heroes deck that I was using a few months back. So I have 2 Book of Moons. I typically don't recommend like 3 of any of our typical spells or traps, but given the effect of Dystopia, I want to have 3 Forbidden Lances here. And so we have that, and obviously it's a very powerful card in itself. The 1 Miracle Fusion, I wouldn't recommend doing more just because we only have 1 Liquid Soldier and we need to use it to Sunrise. So like you're playing off 1 thing there, so you don't want to stack the deck up and make it unbalanced because of that. Destiny Draw, really nice card to have. You discard 1 card, so there's a lot of flow between the graveyard and the hand there. But anytime you're going to get a draw 2 effect that's really, really strong, because we don't have a polymerization in our hand, in the deck, and the only way to get it is through the skill. And if we can't use Wonder Driver's effect to bring it back, Fusion Recovery is really, really nice, and you can bring back a monster in addition to that, and I don't need to explain Crackdown and Evac. So I've had a chance to play with this deck quite a bit. It's been fun already, still kind of improving the flow a little bit because, having to make the trade-offs between, like, do you go into Sunrise, do you go into Dystopia, make sure you have the right amount of protection, that type of stuff. Takes a little bit of time to pick up onto, but it is a fairly straightforward deck. The only other thing I'll mention is it can take a bit of time to put this deck together. So for this deck, the way that I have it exactly, you have to have Aster Phoenix at least level 40. I believe Destiny Draw is a level 40 kind of reward for getting there, and then a couple others like Malicious, I think are in the 30s for the reward, so not too simple there. But as far as like the other cards, most of them come from 2 or 3 copies of the structure deck that is Aster Phoenix that came out the beginning of this game, so not a ton of new stuff there. And then you only need to run through the new box that came out to get Dystopia and Wonder Driver 1s. Now, I have two Sunrises. These are from an well, a little bit older box. It's still pretty recent, but so you need that type of stuff as well, and obviously like your Book of Moons, your Forbidden Lands. But as I talked about in other videos, I think those are cards that you just have to go after 2 or 3 of to put in your deck. So not the most difficult deck to put together, but you do have to focus for a bit. And if you have a newer account like me, you're going to have to grind Astro Phoenix a bit to get the cards you want here. But outside that, I would definitely recommend this deck. I think it could be, rogue tier probably right now. It could make it up to tier 3, I think. I don't think it'll get a lot higher. It isn't incredible, but you can really, really quickly stack the board and finish the duel, which is always really a nice thing to have. You heard Heroes, you knew that I was going to be into it, so let me know what you think of this deck below. Is it something you tried out, willing to try out, or do you think it stinks? Happy to hear your feedback.